morning, Bucknuts. It is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and plenty of change today. Overcast Gem City, Duane Long in the state capital of Columbus. I assume it's the same. Duane, how are you this fine Tuesday?
It's not so overcast here. It's, yesterday was overcast when I wanted to see the eclipse. We're looking pretty sunny here.
The eclipse. Much ado about nothing, even though I went out. Never even got darker here. Kind of disappointing, but at least my kids got to miss a few periods in school. I digress, as we do. Okay, today is going to be, as you should know by now, Dan and Duane's prediction preview extravaganza. Duane and I had 15 questions, fill-in-the-blank questions about the season ahead. I think the best way for someone to enjoy this show is to go to the front row right now to the thread that says Tuesday's BM5 will answer these questions. You can follow along if you'd like, or you can just go to the thread that this creates and just listen. But if you want to follow along as the questions are created, make sure you go to that thread. It has a whole fill-in-the-blank thing there, and you can go down it with Duane. Okay, so we're just going to get right into it here. There are 15 questions. For those of you who turned into a 10-minute BM5-ish, you may get 2 or 3 times what you bargained for. Question number 1. Blank is the class of 2018 prospect committed to Ohio State that I am most excited about. The way this is going to work is, after each question, Duane or I will go first. If we have a different answer, we'll probably discuss it more, but we'll go over it. Okay, number 1, like I said, blank is the class of 2018 prospect committed to Ohio State I am most excited about. Duane, fill in the blank.
Well, I mean, we're already off to such a great start. You know, you look at this class and you're already starting to say, is this going to be as good, if not better, than last year's class? I think it's going to be very difficult to do, but I mean, look at what we have here. I mean, where do you start? I look at a guy like Max Ray, who is, you know, if not for Jackson Carman, we would be talking a lot about him. I gotta say that the kid that just really leaps out at me is Jalen Gill. Jalen Gill, when you look at his film, this is a kid that can, anytime he touches the ball, he can take it to the house. Very special athlete. He can help us as a wingback, or is where I think he's going to play most of the time, but he can be a running back in certain situations. Just that kind of, we now call it the Curtis Samuel role. I'm just really excited about Jalen Gill.
Okay, now I must say this. This is key. I should have said this in the beginning. Duane and I both have our answers to this. We have not discussed this. We have had the 15 questions in our hands for almost a day. I also said Jalen Gill for the exact same reasons Duane said. Obviously, Teron Vincent and those guys and Brenton Cox are great players. But in terms of the guy, like Duane said, it's almost like he was ventriloquizing there for me. He just jumps off the screen to me. And explosive plays are key to this offense, so there you have it. Question number 2. Blank is the class of 2018 prospect not committed to Ohio State I am most excited about. I will do this one. My answer is Micah Parsons, and this is why. Yes, he's a tremendous player, arguably the best defensive end in the class. But just like Ohio State has done with cornerback, they have turned into a little bit of a defensive end pipeline going here. And I'm not sure there's a better position to be stocked at in modern college football. So my answer is Micah Parsons. What's your answer?
I'm going with Jackson Carman. I'm a line guy. I love line play. and this is the best offensive lineman from the state of Ohio since Orlando Pace, and he can do it all. He's a left tackle. He's already solid in pass protection. Jackson Carman, and it's hands down for me.
If you sense a theme developing here, Duane picked Jalen Gill but had to get Max Ray in there and then went with Jackson Carman. I'm picking guys who are a little quicker, so who knows what that means. But anyway, number 3. This is a good one. At season's end, meaning the end of this current season coming up, at season's end, blank will be considered the best player on Ohio State's team. So that means on the field production, who was the best player on the team? Duane, you go.
I'm gonna maybe a surprise pick for it's gonna surprise people, and that's Lewis. I just think that he is, he's not the prototype. Tyquan Lewis, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
He's going to be, he was defensive lineman of the year in the Big Ten last year. And I just, I almost went with Baker here, but I just think Lewis is going to have a greater impact. This defensive line, the guys playing beside him are going to keep him from being double teamed. Just too much talent in there. It's pick your poison. And we're the returning defensive lineman of the year. He's coming back. Usually those guys are headed to the NFL. So we're getting him back. He almost did go last year. It was in his best interest. He is not the prototypical guy, so it was smart for him to come back. Experience is going to be, football smarts, football wisdom, learning, just getting better technique-wise and playing smart football. The more education he has in the game, the better his chances of being successful at the next level. So I just got this feeling that he's going to be the guy that we're going to say, man, that's the guy. He really had a great year. So I'm going with Tyquan Lewis.
Okay, mine might be a little bit off the board, and for those of you who listen to Bucknuts Live over the weekend, I kind of tease this. I think at season's end, the person who will be considered the best player in the Buckeyes is Nick Bosa. I think we are far enough away out from his injury. I think some of this, to me, is staring us right in the face, and that he was arguably the best high school player of this group. We've seen, and I will admit this, I'm basing a lot of this on genetics and how his brother played, and I just think by the end of this year, the fact that he'll be able to play inside, outside, I just think he's going to be a werewolf on the defensive line. I think the defensive line is going to get a ton of credit for this season, and I just think in terms of just on-field play and dominance, it's almost a safe bet to go with the Bosa. Question 4. Blank will be the first Buckeye selected in the 2018 NFL Draft. I will go first here. If you looked at the boarding house yesterday, you saw some great things said about a certain linebacker. But I am going to go with Denzel Ward for the following reasons. 1, it seems every year we have a cornerback rise up in this fashion, and I'm hearing everything great about Ward. 2, Ward is a land speed rocket. He's going to go to the combine and run sub 4.4, I believe. He's going to come up with the Coombs pedigree, and I think corners are held at a premium. If you look at the draft, cover corners, or guys who can come close to that, have become all the rage. Duane, who will be the first Buckeye selected at the 2018 NFL Draft?
Well, great minds think alike for the same reasons. One thing that I would add to what you said, he's about 6 feet tall. They want bigger corners. You can get a kid that of his 6 feet tall, and he's going to hit a time on the 40 that is going to shock and amaze. And and the kid, he's going to have. It's not like, I mean, look at what we had last year with Lattimore. He hadn't played a down, and in 1 year, he got drafted. I can't remember what position. It's very early.
Actually, the only time I remember Lattimore before last year, hold on a second. The only time I remember Lattimore from last year that jumps out at me at corner was when he played against Western Michigan, and Braverman cooked him down the sideline, and Powell missed the tackle. But you're right, there was nothing to build on.
I mean, and Ward has actually played. This will be his second year playing regularly. It'll be first year as a starter, but he's been playing. So, he's going to have more experience. And, we saw a guy go off the board very early, who only had really 1 year. So, I absolutely believe that. Position has everything to do with it. You want a Baker is absolutely spectacular, but linebackers just aren't as valued in the game today as cornerbacks. So I'm going to go with Ward.
Yeah, Jerome Baker was the other player I was considering. I think you can probably, if you look at the roster, and this is probably foreshadowing to some questions coming later in the extravaganza here, the number one corner at Ohio State is pretty much going to be a top 15, top 10 draft pick going forward. If you look at the guys in the league, the Lattimores, the Robies, Eli Apple, even Conley, and then on to this year, I just think you got a little tradition built here, and that's how it's going to go. All right. This question here is obviously a little more of a stab in the dark, a little more fun, but I think we will have some fun with it. Next season, meaning the 2018 season, Greg Schiano will be a blank coach at blank. You can go first.
He's going to be the defensive coordinator at Ohio State University. The Ohio State University. And I'm going to tell you why. First, I have always believed that he wants to go back to the NFL. He left Rutgers so easily. There were college jobs open. He went to the NFL. I think he wants to go back to the NFL. That's right at the top of the list. He's waiting on that shot. And, maybe he can't get it as a defensive coordinator, but it's not like he hasn't been a head coach. He's been a head coach at the NFL level. So I think that Schiano is looking to go back to the NFL. And when that opportunity arises, that's when he's going to leave. I'm just not all that, he could take a college job, obviously, but I think he's going to be here. Everyone talks about Notre Dame. That job could definitely open because Brian Kelly has got a circus going on over there. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think it is what Notre Dame is these days, though. I think Notre Dame may be over. I've pointed out some facts on the board, just how bad Notre Dame's been for the last 25 years. I mean, they've had 9 seasons with 8 or more wins. In the last 24 years, Ohio State's had 18. Notre Dame has just not been what they were. It's all the history. It's the history of Newt Rockne and all that. It really goes back that far. They've had one good spell, one really great season since Lou Holtz left. And
how'd that end?
I just don't know if he's going to go. Yeah, not very well. So I just don't think he's going to be going anywhere. What job's going to open up that he would really, really covet? Ohio State, obviously, let's say this. This is another reason why I think Schiano is going to be here. Maybe he's perfectly content to wait. I don't know how long Meyer's going to be around, Dan. I just don't know. He's starting to get the next generation of his family coming along. I think that if he wins another national championship, he may be ready to say, okay, that's enough.
I want to go play with my grandchildren. I could and go to the booth and live a very comfortable, relaxed, wealthy existence. I could see that happening if he wins another one. And Schiano just steps into the job here. Be the perfect guy to step in here. Another reason. I know I've gone on about this. Who says he's going to get offered the job? Look what is going on out there. What colleges are doing is offering offensive coordinators jobs, the head coaching jobs, not defensive coordinators. Most of the jobs are going to the offensive guys. So I think he's going to be here next year.
Here's mine. Next season, Greg Schiano will be the head coach at Arizona State University. Here's why. Todd Graham is on the hot seat. They have issues at quarterback. I don't think they're going to have a great year. I think the Ohio State defensive line and defense in general is going to get a ton of credit for what goes on this season. Schiano is no spring chicken, though he is fit as a fiddle. Good Lord, I would hate to meet that guy in a back alley with an attitude. And I just think he's going to realize that he only has so many more chances. I think he also realizes, Arizona's a good place to go and chill for a bit. I think he has a chance to go out there and do some damage in the Pac-12, by the way. Yes, I think other people are hiring offensive guys and your young wonderkinds, Lincoln Riley, etc. I think programs sometimes then zag when everyone zigs, and I do think Arizona State would be much better off with Schiano as the head coach. So if everyone saw what he did at Rutgers, which was supposed to be a team that could never get up off the mat, Arizona State probably obviously is not as down as Rutgers, but they are certainly not a heavyweight in the Pac-12. So I looked around at some possible opportunities. Other school I thought that could make a run at him with a big check is North Carolina State. Some people think he's a sleeping giant, and he could have his East Coast ties there. And I think that job could come open. But right now I will guess Greg Schiano, head coach at Arizona State. Obviously, if I had my druthers, he would be defensive. Duane put it this way. I hope Duane is right and I'm wrong. Okay, question number 8. Wait, excuse me. I skipped. We're only on question number 6. Thankfully, you people are going to get more.
Yeah,
Question number 6. Oh, don't mind me. Question number 6. Blank is the Buckeye most likely to transfer after the 2017 season? I'll go first here. I chose Antonio Williams, running back. I looked at a bunch of other dudes. I looked on the offensive line, especially because you're going to have some youngsters starting there. And the pipeline next up dudes, the Josh Myers and Wyatt Davises of the world, I don't think are going to have much challenge getting on the field. That's not right. They'll have a challenge, but I think they're the next ones up. So I couldn't really pick anyone out there. Those guys have been here too long for me to see them transferring, though it's possible. Antonio Williams just isn't going to get a lot of burn here. J.K. Dobbins has passed him at mock speed. Look at the guys they have coming in. Brian Snead is a stud. Other guys coming in. So running back is a position where you need carries. I don't think Antonio Williams is going to try to get to the NFL playing special teams. You've got to be a guy who gets featured. I think he's going to see the fact that he's not going to have a chance to be a featured guy here pretty much in perpetuity. So my choice is the most likely player to transfer after this season ahead is Antonio Williams. Duane, your choice is?
Demetrius Knox. He's threatened to transfer before, and right now we're talking about the right guard job, open competition for it, and his name isn't even coming up. I think he's going to want to play at least 1 year. I could see him leaving the program. There's a number of guys that I think could be out of here. Thompson is likely to move on. One that
Dylan
I
Thompson.
think is the one guy that I think we would not want to see leave that could, because just there's only so many reps out there and there's so much depth,
is Deshaun Cornell. He just kind of seems like a tweener kind of guy. And I don't know how much. I just got a feeling that he may get shoved down the depth chart. I noticed he played more end than tackle in the spring game, so I think that helps him. I think he's, a tweener's, you almost have to go with put him at the position where he's a better fit. He's lighter. I don't know if he's a tackle-sized kid is what it really comes down to. He may not have the real quickness that you want in an end, but he's still better off out there. I could see him moving on, and I'd rather keep him. So my pick is Demetrius Knox. He's he almost left before, and now he's just not in the mix. So I think he's going to move on.
Demetrius Knox was my second choice. I just went with a younger guy who had a better future on transfer, but that would not surprise me one bit. Question number 7. The biggest threat on Ohio State's 2017 schedule is blank. Go ahead, Duane.
Penn State. Penn State was playing so well at the end of last year. And, I'm not going to say they beat us last year. They won. We beat ourselves in that game. 2 black kicks in a game. Dan, when's the last time you saw 2 black kicks in one game? I mean, that was just craziness.
Yeah. We ran out of gas.
And, yeah, Penn State's the best team on our schedule. And they believe they can beat us. So they're going to come in ready to play. I don't think they are going to beat us.
Go ahead.
But, yeah, I'm done.
I like the pick. My thing is that's a home game, and I just don't see a team coming into the shoe and beating Ohio State. I just don't see it. I hate to say this. I think the toughest game on their schedule is at Michigan to finish off the season. I don't think there's any team in Ohio State's schedule that's better than they are. Obviously, neither does Las Vegas, even including the road venues. I just think it's at the end of the year. I don't know what kind of shape Michigan's going to show up in, but the fact that it's a road game, and Harbaugh's the coach, and there's a little mercurial aspect to the game, that's the biggest one. The fact is the rest of the games, I could not pick a home game in terms of actually thinking they're going to lose. So Oklahoma and Penn State were out. I considered at Iowa because that's not a game people are going to be particularly geeked. That's not a game we're going to be particularly geeked for, whereas it's going to be Iowa's Super Bowl at home. So I thought about that, but my choice is Michigan on the road. That said, we'll get to this later on. I think everyone will be happy with the way we wrap this up. Question number 8. Now, this is a tough question because technically, the way Ohio State is recruited, there really shouldn't be anyone to fit this category. But we'll do it for ha-has. Blank is the Buckeye that will surprise everyone this season. I'll go first. This is not going to be that surprising to me personally, but the guy's name is Keandre Jones. Linebacker out of the DMV, of course, I'm going to choose him. Drink. But seriously, we are so deep at linebacker now. Harking back every time we talk about this to the days of Zach Boren getting flipped to linebacker from fullback in week 8, and it was a good move. So Lord knows what the depth was like. Now it's tremendous. Justin Hilliard, a 5-star stud, is having trouble getting on the field. You've got studs across the board. Jones is a playmaker. If you watch any of the video, the highlight video, look for number 16 flashing everywhere. I think he's going to be, a special teams werewolf. And I do think he's going to get a chance to play a little bit more than everyone expects. And he's just one of those guys, a little bit like Jerome Baker, where he's just a difference maker. Jerome Baker is the kind of guy where you expect him to get a sack, get an interception at a key time. I have that kind of feeling about Keandre Jones. So, Duane, your choice, blank, is the Buckeye that will surprise everyone this season.
JT Barrett.
Nice.
I absolutely do not understand
how people can write this guy off and all the fusses we've had about him. J.T. Barrett, when he was coached properly in a properly run offense, was fifth in the Heisman voting. He broke records throwing the ball. And what happened, you have to say when something goes wrong, why? Well, tell me what is different. He lost his coaches. And, people want to say, well, J.T. Barrett doesn't have it. Well, he had it at one time. What changed? The guy calling the plays and the guy coaching him. That's what changed. And Urban Meyer, we give Urban Meyer all this credit for being a genius. If J.T. Barrett was the problem, he's got other options at quarterback. Why didn't he change the quarterback? There's much less upheaval by changing the quarterback than getting rid of two coaches. He got rid of the coaches. They weren't good enough. The offense was a mess, and they were the reason. That's why the offense, losing Tom Herman, is what happened to J.T. Barrett. It's what happened to the Buckeye passing offense. That's what's going to happen this year. Barrett is going to be the player he was when he was fifth in the Heisman voting. That's going to be the player.
I think that's awesome. I'm of the same mind, and we'll get to that in the end. This topic that you're bringing up to me is going to end up being one of the overarching topics of the season. So we'll get to that later on, but I think that's a great choice. And it also sets us up nicely for this next question, which we didn't do on purpose, but it's the beauty of synergy here. Number 9. After J.T. Barrett, blank will be the first quarterback to enter a game this season for Ohio State. I'll go first here. I think it's Joe Burrow. I would understand if it was Haskins, but Burrow has done nothing from what I've heard to dissuade anyone from thinking he's the backup quarterback. He's got a little more seniority. And I think right now I would just trust him more than Haskins, putting him in the game. He's a better runner than Haskins. If we were discussing who was going to play the whole season as the quarterback, if JT was gone, I think I would give more consideration to Haskins because they could maybe make more of a little bit shift the offensive philosophy a little bit to Haskins' strengths. But if you're talking a guy coming in as a backup, I think it will be Joe Burrow. Keep in mind, I doubt he's going to come in as a true backup. He's probably going to come in mop-up duty. But still, I would go with Joe Burrow. Duane, do you disagree?
No. Joe Burrow's going to be the guy. He's going to be first off the bench. I've thought that, I think we'll see both. I think you should alternate them. I absolutely believe that we should try to keep both around here as long as possible. And you do that, I say one game, Burrow comes in first. Next game, Haskins comes in first. But both should play. Both should be ready. Burrow has earned the right to be the first guy off the bench first time we change quarterbacks. That should absolutely happen. And I think it will. I think, you gotta think about the possibility. What if JT goes down? He has, he's had an injury or two. If he goes down, you gotta have a guy prepared to go in. And Burrow's more prepared to step in as a possible starter for, a game, 2 games, a season. We don't know yet. We'll see. You got to go with the more veteran guy. You got to have him ready to step in there.
I agree. All right, here we go. Another kind of synergistic lead here. Blank will lead the Buckeyes in receptions this season. You go, Duane.
I went back and forth with this. But I think we're going to be very surprised at what a healthy Johnny Dixon can do. I think he's going to catch a lot of footballs. I loved him coming out of high school. I thought he was Santonio Holmes with better speed and a little bigger. I think Johnny Dixon, finally healthy, is going to absolutely surprise Buckeye Nation.
That would be awesome. I considered him. Just the injuries for a question like this and a cumulative deal, I couldn't go with it. I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin. I think he's going to kind of be the mainstay of the offense. Maybe not the most spectacular player, but I think he's going to get the most touches. That said, I don't think it's going to be a tremendous number of receptions, and I think this really will be, you could have chosen probably one of 5 guys for this. So that's kind of a move.
Well, that's the thing, Dan. We could have, they're going to play so many guys. I don't think we're going to see a 50-plus catch player here. No, nobody's established themselves like Michael Thomas had.
I was just going to say there's no Michael Thomas.
Yeah. So you're going to see the ball spread around a lot. I could see 6, 7 guys catching balls this year. I could see 6 or 7 guys catching 10 balls. So, yeah, nobody's going to anybody catches more than 40 balls, it'll surprise me.
Me too. All right, number 11. The best opposing player Ohio State will face this season is, now to me this is a pretty easy question after I actually wrote it.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, running back out of Penn State.
Yep.
I heard someone compare him to LaDainian Tomlinson the other day. I think that might be a tad aggressive, but the first time, I mean, it really is a good way to evaluate players, is how they play against Ohio State. If you think about it, it's very rare a guy comes in and kicks ass against Ohio State and isn't a good player. See Khalil Mack or, Sammy Watkins. And I think Barkley has been spectacular every time we faced him. He has everything you need. The offense is going to be totally built around him. So I will go with Saquon Barkley. Do you disagree?
No, nothing more to add. He has played extremely well against us, and there's no reason to think different. Yeah, it's going to be Barkley.
Okay, this is the only question I put on here. I realize that's not a fill in the blank. So it's a multiple answer question, and one that's probably the hardest to do, but maybe the funnest. Which players on Ohio State's current roster of any age have a chance to eventually be top 5 picks in the NFL draft? Not just first-round draft picks. Ohio State had guys pick 3rd and 4th, Joey Bosa and Ezekiel Elliott, respectively, in this past draft. That is the elite of the elite of the elite. I think you could probably get decent odds in Vegas that both are possibly Hall of Fame bound after what they've done so far if they stay healthy. So I will go first on this, Duane. I have 3.5. And the first 3, I think there's 2 obvious ones to me, and they are freshmen. Now, keep in mind, when you're looking for the NFL, you're not just looking at production, you're looking at a prototype for a top 5. Guys don't get picked in the top 5 if they're undersized, if they have any flaws. The top 5 guys are the Bosas and Elliots of the world. So, number 1 is Chase Young. You just don't get that guys with that physical prowess and that makeup. Defensive ends get picked first all the time. See Myles Garrett. If you were to look at Ohio State's roster and ask for the player, the doppelganger for Myles Garrett, the closest thing would be Chase Young. And I also think Chase Young has a lot of growth left in him. I mean, he could get even bigger, but my understanding is he hasn't even developed that many moves yet. He's just all raw power and speed. And when he gets that under the tutelage of someone like Larry Johnson, I think Chase Young. The other guy is a freshman, Jeffrey Okudah, who is your prototype corner, literally. I mean, you can't really design a better defensive back prospect. He's, to me, the best defensive back prospect they've added in the past decade. Yes, I realize that's being said in light of the fact that they've got about 5 guys who've received a signing bonus of $8 or $9 million in the last 3 or 4 years. I get that, but if you look at pedigree and where they were at this stage in their career, Okudah is just simply a more intriguing prospect. I think Nick Bosa has a chance. I think he's going to be that dominant. I don't think he'll be the player his brother is. Now, that's not saying you're not going to be the best defensive end in football is not a drawback or a negative. I just think he has a chance to be that dominant force. I think his versatility is something that people will be intrigued by. And I also think it's much easier to pick someone with the last name of the best defensive end in football and put him in front of your fans in top 5. The other guy I think has a chance, but I got to see him, but I would say it's like 3.5, and that would be Shaun Wade for the reasons I said about Jeffrey Okudah, kind of a prototype in the modern game, and corners get picked in the top 5. So, Duane, do you have any others? What do you think of those?
It's the exact same guys I picked. The other one I would think is if Ward is what we think he's going to be, like you said, cornerbacks get picked in the top 5. They're that important. It's a passing game now. I think Ward could be in there too. But the exact same guys. Other than that, Shaun Wade was one I didn't know if you were going to mention. I was going to mention him. Fuller is a kid. He's just
that
so
was the
athletic.
one. It's so funny. Yeah, that's the one I haggled with. Go ahead.
He's just and he's got size. He's got everything. He's kind of a Malik Hooker clone. And put him on the field and let him go. You know, he's a guy that could have either been an offensive player or a defensive player. Could have been a receiver as easy as he could have been a safety. That was the same thing with Malik Hooker. We didn't know where he was going to play when he first came out. So and a really elite safety, a Malik Hooker safety, they can go that high. Just those rare ones. You know, safety is not generally. There are some teams who just will not draft a safety in the first round. But then there are those rare guys that, yeah.
That's why I didn't put Fuller up there. I mean, I think Fuller is the one. If you're looking top 5, I think what I was really asking with the top 5 picks is who is the NFL prototype on the rest. You don't get picked, like I said,
Right,
top
yeah.
5 if you have an obvious flaw. Fuller doesn't have an obvious flaw right now. He's got the great size, great speed, great strength, great pedigree. Has a brother who played at UCLA. His dad played at TCU, so you've got the lineage. I just don't see a safety getting picked in the top 5, but he would have been the other guy on my list. So that's good stuff. All right, let's move on here. Okay, here we go. This will be fun. Michigan will win blank regular season games this season. Go ahead, Duane.
I'm going back and forth between 8 and 9. I'm going to go ahead and say 8 because I just don't think they have the depth. Last year was their year. If they were going to do it, it was going to be last year. They just
don't have a lot of talent on that roster. Lost all those seniors. Would they say something like 40 guys left that roster, something like that? Some kind of crazy number. I just don't see it. They're not beating Penn State or Ohio State, and somebody else could upset them. So that's why I'm gonna go with 8. With a gun to my head, I'm gonna say 8. Somebody else is gonna pick them off.
I had 9. I can't argue with much of what you just said. I just went through their schedule, and it kind of lines up for them. The early part of their schedule is very soft to me, so I could see them getting off to a false start. That said, a lot of wins, but a false sense of confidence. I don't think they're a great team by any stretch. They get the quarterback back. Harbaugh's a better coach than we like to admit. I'll go with 9. Keeping with the theme here, Penn State will win blank regular season games this season.
I'm going to go with 10. I was impressed with Penn State. You know, yeah, we beat ourselves, but nobody else is going to beat us that night, even with the mistakes we made.
Nobody else is going to beat us. And I was impressed with them in Rose Bowl. I thought they were the better team. USC ended up pulling it out at the end, but I thought Penn State was a better team, and a lot of guys coming back. So I'm going to say they're going to win 10 games. They're not going to beat us.
Yeah, I said 9 again.
They're the only team that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I said 9 for Penn State again. I think they're a tad overrated. I think they were one of those teams last year. If you look at their season, I mean, it all comes back to their win at Minnesota. They were going to lose that game, and I think be 2-3. Instead, they won, didn't lose again until SC I think they're a tad overrated. I think the player they're going to miss tremendously is Chris Godwin, the receiver. Underrated aspect of their offense. I don't see the guy to replace him. I could be wrong. I'll go with 9 for both Michigan and Penn State. Obviously not being the Buckeyes. All right, the 15th and final question is probably the most obvious one you get in a preview. I think we're legally inclined to do this. I'll let you go first, Duane. The 4 college football teams will be, good Lord, the 4 college football playoff teams will be blank, 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 and blank. And then blank will beat blank in the championship game. Go ahead.
I'm going Ohio State, Alabama, USC, and I'm going to go with Florida State. Those are going to be the 4. I believe Ohio State beats Alabama in the national championship game. I think we got it this year. I think we got the fixes we needed for the offense. Defense is going to be dominant. The only question is going to be, is the defensive backfield going to rebound? I don't think there's going to be any problems there. We got 1.5 starters back because, you look at, obviously you've got Webb back and you've got, Ward, who was in there a lot. So you've got 1.5 starters back, and there's just too damn much talent on the roster in the defensive backfield that we're not going to be able to have a solid defensive backfield. And the front 7 is just going to absolutely destroy people.
Okay, I agree with. Let's go back to the one here. I agree with your championship game pick. My 4 teams are Ohio State, Alabama. I'm going to go with Clemson. It was very tough to pick them when I looked at their schedule, but I do think from a talent perspective, I love Christian Wilkins. And I think, this is a big year for Dabo Swinney to prove that it was not the Deshaun Watson show. And I think they'll be ready to handle it. I'm not super impressed. I think the ACC has gotten a tad overrated in the offseason. I think Clemson will go through that schedule rather nicely. But Florida State's also a great team. I can't dispute that. And I think the 4 team is going to be Washington. I understand USC and Sam Darnold finished wonderfully, but I think Jake Browning is a dark horse Heisman candidate at Washington. I really love what Chris Peterson has done. If you look at the talent base at Washington, they have really recruited their butts off. They lost 2 corners to the draft, 2 good ones, and some other studs. The top fastest receiver, fastest player we've ever seen in John Ross, now with the Bengals. But I see Clemson and Washington getting it done, and then I see Ohio State over Alabama in the championship game. Because I think when the season is kind of the 2 things that have come out of the season in terms of why this happened. One, like you said, the front 7, the D-line in particular, is going to be compared. And, the way this was a few years ago when the SEC was just so dominant up front and just beat the crap out of everybody. Bigger, stronger, faster on the defensive line. I think Ohio State's going to be that. But I also think Kevin Wilson, I haven't talked about him enough. His addition to the offense, like you alluded to earlier, getting J.T. Barrett back into a, competent attack. And I think Kevin Wilson is more than competent. To go from Tom Herman to the dudes we had last year back to Kevin Wilson is like, I could come up with a ton of analogies for dating here. It'd be like dating Selma Hayek, Halle Berry, and someone not as attractive in between. So I think this is going to work out beautifully, and I think those 2 things are going to be the reason Ohio State hoists the crown once again.
I got to say something. Clemson, I just think it was the Deshaun Watson show. That's why I considered them. They would have been my 5th team. They're the one that could upset the apple cart for me, but I just think it was. He was just so outstanding in that championship game. He was why they won. Defense, yeah, they got an outstanding defense. Ain't no mystery about that. But I just think that trying to replace him
is going to be just a bridge too far.
I think Urban Meyer would agree with you. Lest we forget, he was the player that altered the recruiting strategies more than ever because you waited a whole year for him and didn't get him. So we hope you enjoyed that very ish on the 5-ish. That thing went on for about 50 minutes there, but it is an extravaganza nonetheless. Have a great one, Bucknutters.